Hello everyone, I'm Buck Weezer. We're putting the do into do-it-yourself. And you know what time it is. It's snowblower time, and I got a whole family of them right here in various states of functionality. We got to do some maintenance and in some cases repairs before the snowy season gets here. So let's work on that together, and I'll show you what we've got to work with. First of all, we've got this little Ultra by Mary. Now this has been sitting outside for a couple of years. I'm not sure what we're going to encounter here, but I'd like to get it going. Probably a carburetor cleaning and all the other basic maintenance. Next here we've got the Troy-Bilt Storm with a 5.5 horsepower. This is in really good condition. I think it's about 10 years old. But I think the main problem here is, as is often the case, these sit so long with old fuel in the carburetor that it gums it up. So I expect to be taking down the carburetor on this guy and cleaning it out. Plus the usual basic maintenance. Here's a nice big Ariens 8526. This is a big one. He's really good too. I don't expect any problems here other than just basic maintenance. And finally, we've got the Toro Power Max 726OE. And this one also, unfortunately, gets stored outside. It also is about 10 years old, and it's got a Briggs & Stratton engine. I'm pretty sure this one's going to require taking down that carburetor and cleaning it out. So we're going to do some maintenance. We're going to put air in the tires. We're going to change the oil, new spark plug on each of them, and do whatever other repairs are necessary along the way. So let's get started. Let's start with the easy stuff. Put some air in these tires. They tend to lose air sitting all year. Hopefully they'll hold air. If not, we may have to think about inner tubes, especially on some of these older ones. These should be good though. This one's not that flat.
Get him.
Alright. Just gonna go down the line. Pump them up. Alright. Time to change the oil. It's always convenient when they've got a piece of pipe that hangs out past the edge of the machine so you can easily drain it. Even still, this one's pretty close to the edge. I'm going to slide a piece of cardboard up there just to keep the machine clean. Sometimes these are on so tight. This one, fortunately, comes off easily. All right, looks like we got some crud down there that came out first. All right, this is great. It's always good to change the oil. My guess is it's never been done on this machine, but I just really don't know. People generally don't get around to doing this kind of maintenance. So we'll drain it and we'll refill it with the clean stuff, and this engine will be a lot happier. Let's change the spark plugs in all of these. Not that they're necessarily bad, but it's just a good principle. I put a new one in every year. Now these are the Champion RJ19LM, and I buy a bunch of those. These are actually the Briggs & Stratton 796112, which is the same spark plug cross-reference. And you want to gap them at 30 thousandths, but they're generally already set that way. You can just check it by comparing it to the other one. And it goes. Snug it down a little bit. Reconnect your wire. And there you go. So I'll just go down the line and put a new spark plug in each of these. Well, the spark plug is not as immediately accessible on this particular engine, so we gotta open up this cover here. But that's okay because we needed to do that anyway to get to the carburetor. So I'm gonna pop off this choke lever, pull that guy out, and we've got a couple of 5/16 screws right here. And then on the top, got a Phillips head screw. Not sure if this is original. This other one's a slotted, as if someone has replaced it. And that guy doesn't seem to be coming up. Try it a little bit from beneath. There we go. See if this guy will come up. All right. Well, this cover should come off. Might have some things attached under there. Separates into two pieces. And this has our, it's got a, this is our primer bulb and hose. That's still on here. I'm going to disconnect him for the time being, if I can. This is our key switch, which is sort of like part of the kill switch mechanism. I don't know if I can get that off or not. For now, we're just going to push him up out of the way. All right, so hopefully you can see it, but here's our spark plug boot right here. And gonna try to get him off. There we go. And there's the spark plug. This looks like a different one than the other three, which took the RJ19LM Champion spark plugs. Let me see if we can get this guy out. Oh yeah, it's not too bad. Okay. QC12YC from Champion. I think I got something comparable to that. So let me go look in the on the shelves and see what we got. Okay. So what I do have is a Briggs & Stratton 491055T. I'm pretty sure that's going to be cross-reference. That looks like the right plug. All right, tighten them up. Put the boot back on. Snaps in place, and I'm going to leave this cover off because I know this particular machine has some carburetor issues, and we're going to end up taking this carburetor down to clean it, rebuild it or something. So for now, we'll just leave it at that, but we got the spark plug done. Well, let's go ahead and add clean oil. I'm going with a 5W30 synthetic blend. A 5W30 would be nice and thin for a cold weather startup, which is of course the only time you would be starting up your snowblower anyway. I don't know how much it takes. I'm gonna guess 16, maybe 20 ounces. Could be more than that. I could look it up, but we're just gonna use the dipstick as a guide, and when we've got it in the safe range, we'll know we're good. So let's start by putting in 16 ounces. Let it settle. We'll remove the funnel, put the dipstick back in, and we'll go from there. Alright, I wanted to talk a little bit about skid shoes. Skid shoes are on either side of the can, and you can see that these are completely worn out. The bottom foot of the skid shoe is completely gone. That's true on both sides. It's totally worn off. It is these skid shoes that come in contact with the ground when you're using the snowblower. And because they're so worn out, the can is probably going to be starting to wear. And also then you can see this scraper bar in here. This scraper bar needs to be just barely above the ground. And the weight of the machine is on your skid shoes, not on that scraper bar. But you can see that this has been, is wearing. And the reason is that our skid shoes are shot. So I'm going to probably have to get some new skid shoes here. And maybe even replace that bar across the bottom. You can see it's bolted in. And the idea is that it can be replaced if it wears. Take a look over here on this machine. You can see these skid shoes had worn out also. But I was able to flip them around and adjust them because these were reversible, you know, so you could get twice the life out of them. This one, however, we're just going to have to get some new ones. On this one here also, it's reversible so that you can get twice the life out of them. But you want to adjust your skid shoes so that the scraper bar is just barely off the ground, and that the weight of the machine is on the skid shoe, not on the scraper bar inside the can. So I'll have to look up. You know, you can replace these easily enough, but I want to make sure I get the right ones. So we'll be doing that as part of getting this guy back in shape, I think. Okay, I think it's time to start working on some of these carburetors. So let's start here with the Toro Power Max and this Briggs & Stratton engine that we have right here. We're going to take this guy off. And shouldn't be too terribly difficult. There's a little screen here that comes off with a 5/16 or 8mm two screws that hold this bracket on and that screen. So bring him off. After that, we've got a, I should also point out this has a fuel shut-off, so I'm going to turn that off. I don't know how old the fuel is in this tank. I'll probably drain it and use something clean, but that makes it convenient to just take that off, to turn that off, and we can disconnect the fuel line. Alright, a little leakage there, but we're okay. Next, there's 1, 2, they look like 3/8 bolts that hold the carburetor in place. They also, they might be at a torque center, like a T30, maybe a T27. No, T30 should do it. We'll try that. Oh, it didn't even seem tight. All right. There's one. After I take this out, the only thing holding it on will be this linkage. So I do that last. Alright. So that comes off, and now the carburetor free. It's just a matter of this linkage and then the small spring. There we go. So the carburetor's off. Little spacer up there can just stay. And now we'll go over to the workbench and open it up, see what it looks like inside. Alright, I hope you can see what I'm doing here. The display screen on my camera stopped working. Pretty sure we're still recording. I just can't see anything in the screen. So we got a 1/2 inch nut at the base of this carburetor bowl that's going to come off. And just looking at that plug, I can see that's completely crudded up. Let's see what else we got in here. Oh yeah, look at all that. Oh my goodness. You see that? It's actually just like dirt and crud. There's not a chance in the world this carburetor would run this way. We're going to take this out, clean it out. I'm going to put it through my ultrasonic cleaner. If it's really that bad, we may end up having to replace it. Just no big deal. But yeah, that's pretty nasty. Probably put a fuel filter on that coming out of that tank also if I'm able to. But this is seriously dirty. So we got some work to do. Alright, so I'm draining the old fuel from this gas tank, and in the meantime we're going to come over and work on the carburetor on this guy, because I'm pretty sure he's got some issues as well. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. And we got to take this cover off. So we'll start by pulling off this safety key. Comes out, pry off this choke lever. That's out of the way. Over here where you can't see, there's 2 Phillips head screws. I'll take them off real quick. And after that, we've got 1, 2, that one might not have to come off, but one up here, it's a 5/16. The nut driver. All right. Now, can we get this cover off? Okay, this wire is part of our kill switch system with that key. It might come off here, and then I can pull this completely out of the way. And we got access to our carburetor. I'm going to move you over to this side where you can see a little better, hopefully. Maybe. All right, so we got one piece of linkage here. We got a fuel line, of course. No shut-off valve on this one. And there is fuel in the tank, so I'm going to definitely want to drain that. Here's the hose for our primer bulb. These tend to deteriorate. That one has begun to deteriorate. This one is, this throttle shaft is really stiff. So yeah, I mean, this definitely is going to require some, cleaning. And there's just no way around it except to take it off. Those look like 3/8 or maybe 7/16. I got to get set up. I probably can just clamp off this fuel line. Maybe we'll try that first. use a pair of vice grips to clamp it off. Oh yeah, let's try that first. We can pry it off. All right, there we go. That's good. Let's see about prying off our primer bulb hose. Okay, you can just hang out of the way. And now, yeah, I think that's going to be 7/16 on those guys. Oop, drop the nut. Don't lose that guy. Alright. This one's a little harder to get the wrench on. Not impossible. All right, heat's off. And the carburetor will come down, last bit of the linkage, and he's off. And yeah, I expect another big mess when we open this guy up. Let's go check it out. Once again, we've got a 1/2" nut here on the bottom of the bowl. Looks pretty cruddy already. Doesn't want to drop down for me. There we go. Yeah, boy, look at that. So this doesn't even have fuel flowing to it. You know, so the needle and seat's probably clogged up with crud, or the float, the needle's stuck in there. See if we can pull that out, take a look. But I mean, you can see the dried crud in the bottom of that. That's just going to clog the carburetor. Because it sits so long between uses. It doesn't look too bad, really. Alright, so this carburetor doesn't look too terribly dirty, but we're going to clean it out anyway. And this jet down the middle hopefully will come out with a slotted screwdriver. Yep. This plug will need to be cleaned out. Fuel needs to flow through it, through the holes at the bottom and up through the top. I unscrewed this guy, but he's not coming out. Oh, maybe he's still going. Well, he's loose. He's just not falling out yet. There he is. So we'll need to clean out this guy, make sure none of these little holes are plugged. This we'll have to clean out thoroughly. And I'm going to put all of these parts through my ultrasonic cleaner. Clean them thoroughly before we put them back together. This has another small jet here that we can remove. He is. Clean him out in those small holes down there. Yeah. Alright. So it really doesn't seem too bad. I think we can clean it out and we'll get this guy back in business in short order. Well, we took down 3 out of 4 carburetors, and based on the appearance of the carburetors, which I've cleaned out, I think the one that gives us the best chance of getting going is this small Troy-Bilt right here. So I put the carburetor back on, and let's give it a, let's see if it'll fire up for us. Now I haven't put the cover back on here just so I could have access to the linkages. Connected the fuel line, we got clean fuel. Our choke is working. We got a primer bulb here. Well, it feels pretty good. When this was first delivered to me, I was told it needed a new carburetor. I said, well, maybe it just needs the old one cleaned out. And that is exactly what we did. And now it's running pretty good. The only thing then that remains on this guy is the new skid shoes and scraper bar, which I have ordered. So when they arrive, we'll put them on, and I think this guy's going to be ready to go. Well, I'm afraid the verdict on this Briggs & Stratton carburetor off of the big Toro Power Max is I'm going to have to replace the carburetor. I can't even get the old needle out. It's just kind of frozen in there in the seat. I've never seen a carburetor that was so filled with crud as this one is, and I don't think I can salvage it, and I don't think it's worth wasting time on it. So let's look up the part number. It looks like this is probably the part number here, even if you can't see that. 793485. So I'll either get a genuine Briggs & Stratton or probably an aftermarket that are less expensive and generally do an okay job. But this guy, he's just gonna have to be scrapped. So this little guy I found among my stash, this aftermarket carburetor. It's not exactly the right one for this. I ran a fuel line around to the front because it came out straight. The choke mechanism won't match up with the other, with the cover, but we'll give it a try anyway. So we can prime it. I got fuel in there. We can choke it. Let's see if this will do anything for us. Well, that's a little something for a machine that probably hasn't run in years. It's not great. It started to move in the forward direction, but then I had trouble. So maybe there's some issues in the drive mechanism beneath that we would have to address. But hey, it's something. It's more than we had before. And so I may try to order the correct carburetor, or if I'm just going to keep it for myself, this will work out okay. And so we got two of them up and running, although this one still needs some fine tuning. Let's go ahead and add some fuel to this big Ariens machine and see if that's going to cooperate for us. Now this fuel tank was dry. I haven't done anything to the carburetor. We just changed the oil and a spark plug, and we'll see if it's going to cooperate with us. Oh, choke it, prime it a little bit. Here we go. right, that's pretty good. So he didn't require a whole lot, and I think he's good to go. So we are, we got 3 out of 4 running, and we're gonna order a carburetor for that big guy on the end. Waiting on some parts, some skid shoes, and a scraper bar for this guy. This guy's really not, he's just a little fun we're having messing around with him. But that feels pretty good, and a few more steps, we'll have all 4 of these guys up and running. Well, I think the time has come for us to finish up this Toro Power Max. We got to install a new carburetor. The new carburetor is sitting here on the bench. It just came in. I went with original Briggs & Stratton, and it wasn't cheap. This is part number 593357. That's a different number than I may have mentioned earlier. I had read this number off of here. That was mistaken. But anyway, it's the right thing. We have to switch the choke mechanism from the old carburetor over to the new carburetor. And hopefully that won't be too big of a deal. A pair of pliers. Kind of try to firmly grab it and pull it out. Then we should be able to pull this guy right up and out. Move him aside. This guy comes in, and we put this right back in. I think I got it. There we go. And it clicks into all those different positions. Closed, open. All right, a little bit windy out here today. Let's mount this up on the snowblower now. The new carburetor came with new gaskets. We'll put this guy back up in there. Tabs will hold it in place. Then I want to connect the choke linkage before I bolt it up. So there's that guy, and then the spring in the smaller hole beside him. Needle nose pliers sometimes help to get him in. There we go. We can put on the fuel line to get that started. And then our bolts. Torx bit through here. I got a Torx screwdriver. I can slide right up in there if I get the right size. This is a T27. Let me get it started with that. And this guy here, same thing. Might be a T30, but that gets it started. Now I'll use, what is it, a 3/8 socket. Tighten that down, maybe a 10 millimeter. Can't quite get it on there. Maybe it's a 7/16. That's too big. $10 mil. All right. Clamp on the fuel line, and you can see I added an inline fuel filter because of the crud that was in this tank. I cleaned it out the best I could, but that filter will help also. Hopefully it won't interfere with the housing that goes on there. Yeah, so actually the next thing we got to do is put this screen back on with an 8mm. Socket. We'll put that guy back on. All right, connect our hose for the primer bulb. This is that hose. It's a little cracked. I want to see if I got some replacement hose for this. That looks about the same size. Let me give that a try. Having a little bit of trouble getting it on there. Might be easier if I warmed it up or something. Or with a pair of needle nose pliers to kind of push it down into place. All right. Comparing it to the length of the other one. That should do it. All right. Which piece goes on next? Reconnect our kill switch key thing. This guy's going to go up here. Primer hose to the primer bulb. Like that. And this piece down lower. And looks like the lower piece should go on first. the upper piece. Let's find that hardware. $8mm again, or 5/16. Happily, our fuel filter does not obstruct with anything. That's good, because I'm happy to put that filter on there. Hey, what are you fussing about? That is not the right screw. Not the right. Let's try this guy. That one's correct. I have to look for another one to replace the second one here. All right, this guy's going to go in there. A choke selector knob. Choke, no choke. Choke, no choke. Okay, that seems all right. Find one more screw for the top, then we'll be ready to add fuel and fire it up. All right, let's add some fuel and see if it'll run. I decided to go with ethanol free. This stuff's the only ethanol free gas you can get around here, and it's super expensive. But you know what? For a machine that's only going to be used 2 or 3 times a year and it's going to sit for a long time, it's all that ethanol in the fuel that is the reason we had to replace that expensive carburetor. So I think I'm going to go for it and use the expensive stuff, because I don't want to take a chance of a carburetor coming up again. Well, that should be enough. Let's open the fuel valve. And we'll see what we can get here. I'm going to move it out. Choke on. Throttle up. Primer priming. Yeah, that's running pretty good. It's actually a very quiet engine as far as snowblowers go, and it was making me think maybe it's not revving high enough, but actually I think it is. It's just a relatively quiet engine. I like that. I had a drip of fuel here, which might have been from when I was priming it. Primed it too much and it little ran out. I think we're okay now. I'll keep an eye on that. Carburetor sounds like it's got it running pretty good. It's got all its forward and reverse speeds, and of course its throwing mechanism is working pretty good. So I think the owner of this is going to be really happy to have it back in running condition. I don't know how long it's sat. I'm afraid he keeps it outside, but he commissioned me to get it going, and that's what we did. Well, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. This one's good to go. Hey, that rhymes. Well, it's time to replace the scraper bar and the worn out skid shoes on this Troy-Bilt 24-incher. And I got it propped up here. Got to be a little bit careful, but I'm not going to be putting myself under it or anything. So we're going to replace the scraper bar. This is the Sten's part number 780-428. It fits any of these MTDs, Troy-Bilt snowblowers with 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts that hold it on and have tabs that come up on either side. I've got the skid shoes. This is Oregon, part number 73-826. And you basically just need a 1/2-inch wrench or ratchet, such as I have here, and we're going to take these off. Listen to that. Them that way with the wrench, and then I'll zip them off the impact. Alright, and then same thing with the skid shoes. It's kind of all part of the same procedure. Alright, these are just completely worn out. And on the other side. All right. Slides in a groove. There we go. See, the weight of the snowblower needs to be on the skid shoes, not on the scraper bar. So this guy was just getting torn up. All right. slides back into place. Alright, so it's just a matter of putting it all back together. I'll do that and then I'll show you how you make your final adjustments on a snowblower skid shoe height. Okay, finally let's adjust the height of the skid shoes and the new scraper bar. So what I want to do is you simply need to loosen the skid shoes on both sides. Loosen these. Okay, and the snowblower will drop all the way to the ground. You've got to put your snowblower on a flat surface like a concrete pad like I have here, or maybe the garage floor. So loosen the skid shoes on both sides. So that the can drops all the way down and the weight of the snowblower is now on the scraper bar. Then I want to just put something thin. I got a couple of old license plates here. I'm going to put them under here just to hold the snowblower just slightly up, the scraper bar just slightly up off the ground, maybe like something like a paint stirring stick or something like that. Now, move your skid shoes to the ground and tighten them. So that the weight of the snowblower will be on the skid shoes and not on the scraper bar. All the way down and then tighten. Do that on both sides and then you'll be good to go. Well, that's about it. That wraps it up. We've got these 4 snowblowers back in business, and in the process we pretty much covered all the basic maintenance and repair items that we typically face on machines such as these. It's been a lot of fun. I hope maybe you learned a little something, and I thank you for joining me on this video. Feel free to subscribe to this channel, leave me a comment or a question, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye-bye.